It seems I have underestimated you. But still, your valiant efforts have come to naught.
I loved Flash Gordon. I remember as a kid, we had a little grocery store, and the Sunday paper would come in, and stuff would be in color. And I could see Flash Gordon, I could see Tarzan, and I could see Tim Tyler's Luck. Nobody remembers Tim Tyler's Luck. It was also drawn by Alex Raymond. I was wondering, wouldn't it be great if I could get the rights to Flash Gordon?
Created in 1934 by Alex Raymond, Flash Gordon is one of the most famous science fiction heroes of all time. In addition to starring in newspaper strips, the popular character was featured in movie serials, comic books, novels, television series, and eventually in a lushly animated series from Filmation Studios. 27 years after its debut, the talented creators of the New Adventures of Flash Gordon cartoon are about to share with you their memories. You too can enjoy Blasting Off with Flash Gordon.
When comic strips started out, they were mostly slapstick humor, so that you had Mutt and Jeff and Bringing Up Father and Blondie and Dagwood. The first adventure strips were Tarzan, which was drawn by Hal Foster and written by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and Buck Rogers. Buck Rogers was an outer space adventurer and was the very first comic strip about an outer space adventurer and was very popular. So naturally, the Hearst Corporation wanted an outer space adventurer for their Sunday papers. And they came up with Flash Gordon, a polo star and dashing romantic athlete who is kidnapped by the evil Dr. Zarkov and whisked off to the planet Mongo, where he fights Ming the Merciless. This happened in 1934 and was tremendously popular. Almost immediately they made 3 movie serials starring Buster Crabbe as Flash Gordon. The artist for the Flash Gordon comic strip was Alex Raymond and did absolutely gorgeous work. Many young men date their romantic awakening to the beautiful women who occupied the Flash Gordon comic strip, often as villains, such as Princess Aura, the daughter of Ming the Merciless, and Queen Freya of Phrygia. After the movie serials, the next adaptation of Flash Gordon was a 1950s TV show starring Steve Holland. Unfortunately, it had a budget of about $1.57 an episode, and so is a little bit hard to watch today. In 1979, Dino De Laurentiis made a fairly big budget Flash Gordon movie, which has its fans. It was a little bit on the silly side, and the score by Queen is often mocked or imitated. Flash Gordon, he saved every one of us. But it had its moments, and Max von Sydow, a wonderful actor, played Ming the Merciless, and he would steeple his hands like this, just as the actor Charles Middleton did in the old serials. There are good things to be said about the Flash Gordon live-action movie. At about the same time, Filmation did an animated Flash Gordon series, which was much more true to the original Alex Raymond comic strip.
I got the rights to Flash Gordon originally to do it as a live-action, nighttime motion picture for television. I presented it to NBC only because when I went over to NBC, there was a man named Joe Taratero who had bought for Saturday morning but now was in charge of buying for nighttime motion pictures. And I told him we had the rights to Flash Gordon, and I think we can do a really worthwhile, terrific motion picture for you that you'll really enjoy. It'll work for you. He said, yeah, go ahead and do it. So I went ahead. I found a writer named Sam Peoples. Sam had done the second pilot for Star Trek. It's the pilot that sold the concept. I went to Sam, we sat down, we were going to do this thing, and he wrote a script. Unfortunately, The script would have cost $30 million to do live action. I went back to the network. I said to them, we have a terrific idea, a terrific script. We can only do it if it's animated. And they said, okay. It was developed as a movie. It was shown as a movie. Pauline Kael, a motion picture critic, who was a really very important critic for the time, called it the best motion picture on national television.
Flash Gordon was probably one of my most favorite series to work on. I loved the property. I can remember Don Christensen asking me at one point while I was working at Filmation what my favorite project would be to work on, and I told him at that time it was Flash Gordon, and this was quite a long time before we got the rights to do it. And when we did, he came to my office and told me, well, it's finally happened, we're going to do Flash Gordon. So it was like almost like getting a present. Ever since Star Wars had come out, we wanted to do something that had the same kind of excitement visually and from a story standpoint. So we were very excited to be able to do Flash Gordon. And we tried to be faithful to Alex Raymond in our designs and evoke that feeling. And we did a lot of sort of groundbreaking things for us in terms of shooting model spaceships with stop motion and then making cells out of them. And it was very exciting, very fulfilling effort.
And we had some cute characters and did some really nice special effects. Of course, nowadays with computers, those effects are quite ordinary, but at the time we didn't have computers, and we worked all that out ourselves, which made the job fun. We could design things and go down to camera and try things out and find things that would work and look effective on the screen.
In designing the women for Flash Gordon, we also tried to stay faithful to Alex Raymond's original ideas in terms of costume. He had clothed his women in pretty much harem outfits for a lot of the time. And so that's the approach we took. We wanted it to really remind people of that Flash Gordon, not things that had been done since. In doing the Flash Gordon series, we wanted to follow the storyline from the original Sunday papers, and that brought Flash Gordon from the Earth to Mongo and necessitated a costume change. He came to Mongo in his Earth costume and wore it for a while so it could get all beat up the way it did for Buster Crabbe in the original serials. And then later he adopted a uniform that had its origins on Mongo, and then he kept wearing that for the rest of the series. The alien creatures that lived on Mongo were, we had dragons, we had man-eating plants, we had a wide variety of beasts, and again we were taking our initial cue from what Alex Raymond had done in the Sunday papers, and I was responsible for designing a number of those things, the dinosaurs that appear in the early episode, the robots that Ming uses. Ming himself was designed by Herb Hazelton, who ultimately designed most of the human characters for Flash Gordon.
It's interesting that many of the most famous Flash Gordon characters, like Vultan the Hawkman and Thun the Lion Man, only appeared in the first year of the strip, 1934. At that point, some people felt like having half-man, half-animal characters in the Sunday paper might lead people to believe in evolution, which was very controversial at the time. And so, no more Thun the Lion Man and no more Vultan the Hawkman. until the Dino De Laurentiis movie brought them back, and no one seemed to object. The Filmation series also is very much the story of the friendship of Flash Gordon and Prince Baron, who eventually marries Ming's beautiful daughter, Princess Aura, Thumb the Lion Man, and Voltan the Hawkman. The Filmation New Adventures of Flash Gordon is more respectful of the character. They treat him as a serious adventurer and someone to be involved in exciting episodes and not somebody to laugh at behind his back.
Well, when I was young, I was a big Saturday morning fan. I used to watch all the Hanna-Barbera shows. I watched all the Filmation shows. Archie was like one of my top 10 all-time favorite shows. And I got into the business in 1976. I worked for another studio for a year. And then I heard they were having layout training classes at Filmation. So I went there in November of '77 and started work there that year working on Flash Gordon, Tarzan, the Super 7, and the Fabulous Funnies as a layout person. We had a lot of rotoscoping. It was very much just a very labor-intensive process, but it looked really, really good in places. I worked with a guy named Wes Hershenson, who was my layout mentor on the thing. And we did work up one scene with Princess Aura, where she's on a couch and she kind of rotates over and looks to Flash and does what she tends to do. And the director looked at it and kind of gave us a funny look, going, "What's wrong with it?" And he said, "Well, she's not alluring enough." And we kind of got the hint and we knew what to do after that.
The first 5 episodes of the series were really a version of the feature that we did. We added new scenes and we cut it in different places. But it was pretty thrilling to see some of the stuff we did that had never been done before.
When we did the feature, that's when all the characters were designed and the bibliographies were made and backgrounds and settings and stuff like that, and we worked out all our special effects. So basically when we started the series, we took the first 5 episodes of the feature and made them into a Saturday morning segment, and then went on to do many more after that. The look of the show is pretty much the same throughout the whole series. You know, the characters are there. There are some new characters introduced from time to time, but the main characters stayed the same. First season, they asked me if I wanted to direct the feature, and I said no, I don't feel I have that enough experience to do the whole thing, but I would love to do a segment. So Don Christensen produced the first season, first year that we worked on it, and I did several segments. Second season, they had me take over as the head director.
I went back to the network. By then, Fred Silverman, who had been president of CBS, was president of NBC then. He had also been president of ABC, and he had been the man who really started us in the networks. He bought Superman from us, and I said to Fred, "We've got the rights for that picture, and we got the rights to do Flash Gordon. I think it would make a terrific Saturday morning show," and he did too. Fred Silverman bought the show, bought actually 27.5 hours from us, which was an unusually large buy. It's a big commitment. I did something that I thought was a great idea, and I still think it was a great idea. We did it as a cliffhanger. I mean, we did half-hour cliffhangers. We did a total story within the context of the half hour, but he would start off and get in trouble again. It was like Perils of Pauline.
Here, hurry! The chase ends now! We're trapped!
The problem was that these shows repeat 4 times a year. Doing cliffhangers that are going to be repeated 4 times a year really made the networks crazy because they couldn't change. When shows would get great ratings, what they would do is they'd play them more. They couldn't do that with Flash Gordon. Silverman said, "We got to change it somehow and make it work so that the audience won't have to worry about what's going to happen next week, so that they can pick it up anytime they want to." Because if you had missed 2 or 3 shows, you'd get it. So we did the second year for, hopefully, we thought, maybe a little younger audience, and we stuck a dragon in it, and it was a little more fun, but personally, I like the first year better.
They had spent a great deal of the budget on this first season with script and going back and forth and stuff like that. So by the time they handed it over to me, there was just a minimal amount of the budget left. So I talked to Lou. Lou says, look, he said, I'm going to give you your own crew. I'm taking you out of the main studio, and you're going to go over to the sound stage and set up like a little mini studio to do the feature. And so I had my pick of the animators that I wanted to use and the storyboard people and layout people, and we just set up a small studio and brought over those people that I thought were the best assistants.
I wrote 2 11-minute episodes. They had 2 complete stories in 1/2 hour, and they were called Gremlin's Finest Hour and Micro Menace.
Enjoying this? Yes. I think he really believes he's Gargantus.
In Gremlin's Finest Hour, I had a storyline that I've used before and probably will use again. You take the comedy relief character and you put him in a situation where he's the big cheese in a primitive society or something like that. There's always comedy mileage to be gotten out of that, so that was fun to do. The thing I remember about Micro Menace was I got a lot of complaints because it was a story, surprisingly enough, where everybody got shrunken down to a tiny size, which meant that they had to redo all the backgrounds because everything had to be out of scale, and they didn't want to do that.
I was very proud of Flash Gordon. Number 1, we got the rights, which was difficult. Number 2, we did a terrific movie. And you can say that now about your own work. You feel funny about saying it. When I say your own work, a lot of hundreds of talented people, their work. And when I saw it again for the first time, many of those scenes in those first 5 hours, they were really good.
I was excited to write for Flash Gordon. I was a big Alex Raymond fan, and I thought that they just nailed it in the movie. I thought the movie was probably the best Flash Gordon I've ever seen. I thought it was miles better than the live-action movie in the 70s. As good in its own way as the Buster Crabbe serials were. So it was a big thrill to write on the show. I enjoyed doing it.
We did a lot of experimenting with effects. We had some fine animators working on that, some young people coming along, learning to do that kind of high caliber work. There were some animated scenes in there that I think really rivaled Disney's. The ostriches with the beautiful girls riding them that Luca Chivas animated were beautifully done. Some of the finest animation you'll see in the business. A lot of things like that. The stories were good. Music was pretty good. It was a very good work experience.
I really loved the new adventures of Flash Gordon when they were first on the air because they were true to the comic strips, and I'm delighted that they're now coming out on DVD. And of course, I hope that a whole new generation of readers will want to seek out the comic strips of Flash Gordon in my monthly magazine, Comics Review.
Some of the heroes that Filmation did, some of the comedy that Filmation did, you're seeing things that were cartoons then are becoming cultural touchstones now. And I think that if Lou has anything he can kind of, walk off proudly with, along with Norm and everybody else, is the fact that he did influence a lot of kids. A lot of them grew up to work for him. A lot of them grew up to do the cartoons that are influencing the kids of the future. I was so influenced by working for Filmation, I actually co-wrote a book about them. A book, Animation by Filmation, I did in conjunction with Michael Swanigan, who was another longtime Filmation fan. And it was kind of our little love letter to a company that we hope will survive the test of time, that people will know more about. And as time goes by, people will get to realize was much a part of their lives as it was Michael's and mine. It's really going to be cool for you guys to buy these DVDs, because then you'll discover on these DVDs the magic of Filmation I discovered first 25 years ago, first as a fan and then as an employee.
I look back on Flash Gordon with a lot of pride, and I think we spent probably more time and effort on that single project than any other. We did a lot of live action reference, and we did a lot of model work that paid off in giving the show a much more sumptuous look than most of the other Filmation projects that I worked on.
Earth is saved.
But we can never return home.
Who knows? Maybe Doc can come up with a way to get us back to Earth again someday.
One of the guys I worked with on Flash Gordon was my boss, Don Christensen. Now, Don pretty much inspired fear in the studio, shall I say, because he had his way of doing things. Well, one night I was working in the studio late, and Don comes skulking around and looks in the offices. He sees me in there, and he sees me, and okay, walks by. A minute later, he walks by again. I said, Don, what are you doing? He then pulls out 2 Star Trek saucer guns and zaps me with them. I'm going, you little wise guy. So I run after him, and this is the guy who was the most feared person in the building, running up and down the hall, giggling like a schoolgirl. And we spend the rest of the evening just zipping around the whole studio, just the 2 of us, you know, shooting saucer guns, hitting the intercom system, and just pretty much just enjoying ourselves like crazy. It's something, that type of stuff that we could do back then. That is kind of, I don't really hear much about the animation studio stories nowadays.